The hour of convening has finally arrived, the moment we've all been waiting for. At this time, I'd ask that the Senate come to order and all unauthorized persons exit the chamber. Chair would like to recognize his good friend, the senator from the 53rd.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. Enjoyed our time together yesterday, and thank you for your leadership to the state of Georgia. It's been outstanding. A couple of moments in history. In 1842, American surgeon Dr. Crawford Long, right here in Atlanta, used ether and the stuff that puts you to sleep, anesthesia, for the first time during an operation. That happened right here in 1842. Also in 1981, President Ronald Reagan is shot in the chest outside a Washington, D.C. hotel by John Hinckley Jr., along with two others. A sad day. And today, I think the people running the, wait a minute.
Take all the time you need.
Okay.
You need a teleprompter?
I do. I need what's that called when you get somebody outside to help you? The people running Buckhead City group. This is a World Bipolar Day. I think it's very fitting for their leadership. Also, today is National Doctors Day for the several doctors we have in this chamber. And Mr. President, the journal's been read and found to be correct.
Wealth of information as always, and can you imagine having your Achilles operation without anesthesia? You have been. Is there objection to dispensing with the reading of the journal? The chair hears none, and the reading of the journal is dispensed with. Is there objection to the confirmation of the journal? The chair hears none, and the journal is confirmed. All senators who have late-breaking ideas, please bring them to the Secretary's desk at this time. Senator from the 37th is never short on ideas. Mr. Secretary, first reading and reference of Senate bills and resolutions, please.
Senate Bill 643 by Senator Huff-Stetler of the 52nd, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 43 of the OCGA relating to professions and businesses so as to enact the anesthesiologist
Health and Human
assistant.
Services.
Senate Bill 644 by Senators Dixon of the 45th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 40 of the OCGA relating to motor vehicles and traffic so as to provide for an inspection of
Public
converted.
Safety.
Senate Resolution 823 by Senators Miller of the 49th and others, a resolution approving the cost of living adjustment and supplement. Senate Resolution 824 by Senators Ginn of the 47th and others, a resolution recognizing Senator Jeff Mullis and dedicating an intersection in his honor and for the
Transportation.
Senate Resolution 826 by Senators Kirkpatrick of the 32nd and others, a resolution encouraging any organization that administers or conducts high-risk...
Rules.
Senate Resolution 832 by Senators Halpern of the 39th and others, a resolution urging Georgia's law enforcement agencies to attain best practices...
Rules.
Senate Resolution 835 by Senators Halpern of the 39th and others, a resolution creating the Senate Study Committee on Modern Policing Techniques and Practices for Georgia law enforcement agencies and for other purposes.
Rules.
That completes the order, Mr. President.
Mr. Secretary, will you please read reports of standing committees?
Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Education and Youth has had in consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation that House Bill 681 do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Payne of the 54th Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Education and Youth has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation that House Bill 1084 do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Payne of the 54th District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Ethics has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation that House Bill 1464 do pass by substitute, House Resolution 842 do pass by substitute, and House Bill 923 do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Burns of the 23rd District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Health and Human Services has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation that House Bill 697 do pass by substitute, House Bill 1533 do pass, House Bill 1042 do pass, House Bill 1484 do pass, and House Bill 1304 do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Watson of the 1st District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Higher Education has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation that House Bill 291 do pass by substitute, House Bill 1043 do pass, House Bill 1319 do pass, and House Bill 1435 do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Tibbins of the 37th District, Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Insurance and Labor has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation: that House Bill 389 do pass by substitute and House Bill 1045 do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Burke of the 11th, Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Judiciary has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation: that House Bill 272 do pass by substitute, House Bill 322 do pass by substitute, House Bill 397 do pass by substitute, House Bill 916 do pass, House Bill 974 do pass by substitute, House Bill 1092 do pass by substitute, House Bill 1274 do pass by substitute, and House Bill 1391 do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Strickland of the 17th District, Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Regulated Industries and Utilities has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation: that House Bill 1424 do pass by committee substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Cowser of the 46th District, Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Rules has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation: that Senate Resolution 324 do pass, Senate Resolution 329 do pass, Senate Resolution 364 do pass, Senate Resolution 383 do pass, Senate Resolution 450 do pass, Senate Resolution 615 do pass, Senate Resolution 638 do pass, Senate Resolution 650 do pass, Senate Resolution 659 do pass, Senate Resolution 741 do pass, Senate Resolution 768 do pass, Senate Resolution 770 do pass, Senate Resolution 773 do pass, Senate Resolution 781 do pass, Senate Resolution 799 do pass, Senate Resolution 800 do pass, Senate Resolution 803 do pass, Senate Resolution 809 do pass, Senate Resolution 818 do pass, Senate Resolution 819 do pass, Senate Resolution 820 do pass, Senate Resolution 821 do pass, Senate Resolution 822 do pass, Senate Resolution 428 do pass by substitute, and Senate Resolution 802 do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Cowser of the 46th District, Vice Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Rules has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation: that House Bill 1183 do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Cowser of the 46th District, Vice Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Rules has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation: that House Bill 1013 do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Mullis of the 53rd District, Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Special Judiciaries has under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation: that House Bill 1352 do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Jordan of the 6th District, Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on State and Local Governmental Operations has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation: that House Bill 1535 do pass, House Bill 1537 do pass, House Bill 1538 do pass, House Bill 1540 do pass, House Bill 1558 do pass, House Bill 1570 do pass, House Bill 1574 do pass, House Bill 1578 do pass, House Bill 1579 do pass, House Bill 1592 do pass, House Bill 1593 do pass, House Bill 1595 do pass, House Bill 1596 do pass, House Bill 1597 do pass, and House Bill 1598 do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Anderson of the 24th District, Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Government Oversight has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation: that House Bill 92 do pass by substitute, House Bill 918 do pass by substitute, House Bill 960 do pass by substitute, House Bill 1182 do pass, and House Bill 1335 do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Harbert of the 16th District, Chairman. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Mr. Secretary, will you please read bills and resolutions for the second time?
Senate Resolution 324 by Senator Mullis of the 53rd, Senate City of Ringgold Charter Study Committee, create. Senate Resolution 329 by Senator Halpern of the 39th and others, Senate Committee on Excellence, Innovation, and Technology at Historically Black Colleges and Universities, create. Senate Resolution 364 by Senator Auer of the 48th and others, Senate Costs and Effects of Smoking Study Committee, create. Senate Resolution 383 by Senator Kirkpatrick of the 32nd and others. Senate Study Committee on the Restoration of Veterans Nursing Facilities, create. Senate Resolution 428 by Senator Parent of the 42nd and others. Senate Food Delivery App Study Committee, create. Senate Resolution 450 by Senator Moles of the 53rd and others. Senate Study Committee on Georgia Music Heritage, create. Senate Resolution 615 by Senator James of the 35th and others. Senate Property Owners Associations, Homeowners Associations, and Condominium Associations Study Committee, create. Senate Resolution 638 by Senator Orrick of the 36th and others. Walker, Judy Davis, recognize. Senate Resolution 650 by Senator Dugan of the 30th and others. Senate Study Committee to review education funding mechanisms, create. Senate Resolution 659 by Senator Summers of the 13th and others. Senate Study Committee on Unsheltered Homelessness, create. Senate Resolution 741 by Senator Innovatarte of the 31st and others. Senate Study Committee on the creation of a Georgia Cybersecurity Force, create. Senate Resolution 768 by Senator Robertson of the 29th and others. Dominican Republic Central America Free Trade Agreement, express support. Senate Resolution 770 by Senator Harrell of the 40th and others. Senate Study Committee on People with Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities and Waiver Plan Access, create. Senate Resolution 773 by Senator Robertson of the 29th and others. Senate Direct Sales of Electric Vehicles Study Committee, create. Senate Resolution 781 by Senator Gooch of the 51st and others. Senate Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Study Committee, create. Senate Resolution 799 by Senator Anderson of the 43rd and others. Nation of Israel, commend. Senate Resolution 800 by Senator Jackson of the 41st and others. Ethiopia, calling for unfettered humanitarian access, recognize. Senate Resolution 802 by Senator Bullis of the 53rd. Joint Study Committee on Transparency in High School Athletic Associations, create. Senate Resolution 803 by Senator Bullis of the 53rd. Senate Study Committee on the Prevention of Unhealthy Puppies and Protection of Ethical Retail Sales, create. Senate Resolution 809 by Senator Burns of the 23rd and others. Senate Development Authorities and Downtown Development Authority Study Committee, create. Senate Resolution 818 by Senator Albers of the 56th and others. Cherokee County Adopt Annexation Growth Boundary Agreements and Joint Land Use Plans, urge. Senate Resolution 819 by Senator Parent of the 42nd and others. American Society of Landscape Architects, recognize. Senate Resolution 820 by Senator Robin of the 5th and others. Federal Republic of Germany and the State of Georgia, the long relations and continuous cooperation, recognize. Senate Resolution 821 by Senator Rahman of the 5th and others. Country of Bangladesh, recognize. Senate Resolution 822 by Senator Mullis of the 53rd. Senate Study Committee on Economic Development and International Relations, create. House Bill 389 by Representative Jones of the 25th and others. Employment Security, change definition of employment to include services performed by an individual for wages. House Bill 697 by Representative Newton of the 123rd and others. Healthcare data collection, hospitals maintain certain technology provisions. House Bill 916 by Representative Leverett of the 33rd and others. Superior and State Court Appellate Practice Act, enact. House Bill 923 by Representative Oliver of the 82nd and others. Local government developmental authorities cap the per diem allowance available to directors. House Bill 974 by Representative Gullett of the 19th and others. Property deeds require electric filing. House Bill 1042 by Representative Jaspers of the 11th and others. One Georgia Authority Act, grant program to establish primary care medical facilities and health professional shortage areas, provide. House Bill 1043 by Representative Jaspers of the 11th and others. Georgia Endowment for Teaching Professionals, create. House Bill 1045 by Representative Gaines of the 117th and others. Workers' compensation, dissolution of subsequent injury trust fund, extend time period. House Bill 1084 by Representative Wade of the 9th and others. Education, curricula on training programs which encourage certain concepts, prevent use of. House Bill 1092 by Representative Cooper of the 43rd and others. Georgia Women's Care, Child Care Alternatives, Resources, and Education Act, enact. House Bill 1274 by Representative Carson of the 46th and others. State government anti-Semitism, provide definition. House Bill 1304 by Representative Hawkins of the 27th and others. Georgia Caregivers Act, and create. House Bill 1319 by Representative Werkheiser of the 157th and others. Georgia Student Finance Authority, provide for Georgia LEO scholarship grant. House Bill 1352 by Representative Smith of the 133rd and others. Property, provide for handling of certain wills. House Bill 1391 by Representative Gunter of the 8th and others. Criminal procedure, compensation for public defenders and assistant public defenders, revise. House Bill 1424 by Representative Powell of the 32nd and others. Georgia Lottery for Education Act. Administrative procedures regarding coin-operated amusement machines shall be subject to Chapter 13 of Title 50, provide. House Bill 1435 by Representative Martin of the 49th and others. Education needs-based financial aid program, include eligibility for students with a financial aid gap. House Bill 1464 by Representative Burchett of the 176th and others. Georgia Bureau of Investigation, original jurisdiction to investigate election fraud and election crimes, provide. House Bill 1484 by Representative Hawkins of the 27th and others. Social Services, 3-year pilot program to provide coverage for the diagnosis and treatment of PANDAS and PANS under Medicaid. Provide. House Bill 1533 by Representative Newton of the 123rd and others. Professions and businesses, professional programs that address career fatigue and wellness and healthcare professionals are not obligated to report to licensing boards except in certain circumstances. Provide. House Resolution 842 by Representative Cantrell of the 22nd and others. Georgia General Assembly established standard salary for senators and representatives equal to 60% of median household income. House Bill 918 by Representative Chokas of the 138th and others. Georgia Rare Disease Advisory Council provide establishment. House Bill 960 by Representative Lever of the 33rd and others. Office of Inspector General establish. House Bill 1182 by Representative Taylor of the 173rd and others. Local government disposition of property acquired for lake projects do not apply if any portion of such lake was constructed. Provide provisions. House Bill 1335 by Representative Smyrie of the 135th and others. Holidays and observances provide for Public Safety Week. That completes the order, Mr. President.
For what purpose does the senator from the 39th rise?
Good morning, Mr. President. I ask unanimous consent for SR 836 to be read the first time and referred to committee.
Ms. Secretary, can you please read the caption?
Senate Resolution 836, a resolution by Senator Halpern of the 39th and others, a resolution creating the Senate Study Committee on a Museum of African American History and Culture of Georgia and for the purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Senator from the 39th has asked for unanimous consent that the Senate rules be suspended to allow Senate Resolution 836 to be read for the first time and referred to committee. Is there objection? The chair hears none, and it is sent to rules. All right, it's now time for our morning roll call. It's now time for morning roll call. The chair would like to recognize the senator from the 33rd for a motion to excuse.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, y'all. I ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 22nd, 42, 43, and 55.
Without objection, the senators from Without objection, the senators from the 22nd, 42nd, 43rd, and 55th are excused. Chair recognizes the senator from the 38th.
Mr. President, I ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 34th for business inside of the Capitol.
Without objection, the senator from the 34th is excused. Are there any additional motions to excuse? The chair sees none. The secretary will call the roll. Senators, signify your presence by voting the yea switch. The secretary. You got to push the button. Chair recognizes the senator.
The 23rd.
From the 23rd.
23rd. Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 31st. 31st.
Without objection, the senator from the 31st is excused. The secretary will call the roll of senators. Signify your presence by voting the yea switch. The secretary will unlock the machine. All right, it's now time for a morning devotional, and I'd ask that all senators take your seats. And as always, please cease all audible conversations. Doorkeepers, secure the chamber before the senator from the 20th can get out. Chair would like to recognize the senator from the 14th to lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance and to introduce to us our chaplain of the day.
Thank you, Mr. President. Please join me in honoring our flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now our Georgia flag.
I pledge allegiance to the Georgia flag and to the principles for which it stands, wisdom, justice, and moderation.
Good morning, Senators. This morning I have the privilege of bringing before you David Franklin. I'm not even sure where to begin with David Franklin. David is a very well-respected pastor that comes out of the Macon area. I think it was Mabel White years ago. He was recruited to come up to Bartow County, northwest Georgia. If you live in the Bartow or northwest Georgia area, you're familiar with a program called Splash. And what David's heart was is to take young individuals and teach them to have the heart of service. And that program grew into hundreds and hundreds of youth that would come and over a week's period of time go to people's homes and build ramps and help widows and help those that are less fortunate. And the whole point was to teach that we should give to those that we have the opportunity to, that maybe can't do for themselves. But those that know David Franklin best know that he can be a bit of a clown. He can bring people that are in a serious mood down to their knees in laughter, just to drive a point across. We call him in the Baptist world our Bishop of Bartow County. Not only is he lead all of the Baptist churches in Bartow County, but he's reached across the aisle with other denominations. He's on the National Day of Prayer, and he's on many other different boards and leads with WindShape, and now has been meeting with a man many of you know is David Ferguson. Why do I bring that up? Because something special is happening up in Bartow County. Ladies and gentlemen, I bring before you David Franklin. Thank you so much.
August 31st, 1803, Captain Meriwether Lewis and William Clark, Lieutenant William Clark, set out with the core discovery, having been commissioned by Thomas Jefferson, President of the United States, to go find the western waterway from all the way to the Pacific Ocean. Louisiana Purchase, where America had just bought over 800,000 square miles of land, had just been completed, and it was essential to try to find the waterway. Went up the Mississippi in canoes, because at that time, that's what America was. We were river rats. Port cities like New York, Philadelphia, Savannah, and then up rivers. For 15 months they traveled, and Lewis records having gone up the Missouri River, up the Mississippi to the Missouri River, to the headwaters of the Missouri River, drinking from the cool, fresh spring that would ultimately flow all the way to New Orleans and the Gulf of Mexico. They'd left their canoes and walked just a little bit further, crossed a rise, and looked, and to their absolute shock and amazement, they saw something that they had never anticipated. Mountains. As far as they could see, snow-capped mountains, the Rocky Mountains. They had made, as everybody before them had made, this assumption that what lay before them is what lay behind them. Because as they crossed that ridge and saw those mountains, they realized they had run out of water. They were off the map. What was before them wasn't what was behind them. And they had to go from river rats to now they had to turn into mountain men. Because everything that they had been trained to do with canoes, all their equipment, all of their stuff, all their training was now obsolete. I want to challenge you to think today, guys, 2022, we're off the map. Been through a pandemic, social unrest, political unrest. You go through all kinds of things. And what's in front of us is not what's behind us. And if we do, well, Lewis and Clark, you got to give these guys credit. They did something absolutely radical. They made the transition from being river rats to mountain men. Started connecting with Indians, and they got horses, and they went all the way across the mountains, the Rocky Mountains, to the Pacific Ocean, and then back. Took them 3 years. Got back in September of 1806. Now, why do I use that? There's a futurist, part of the National Institute of the Future, Bob Johansen. He says this: it used to be that all things in society from the beginning were fairly stable and predictable. Things changed constantly, but it was a slow change. But he said in this last generation, all of a sudden we've gone to volatility, we've gone to ambiguousness, we've gone to this reality that things are changing so fast that we can't keep up with it. Now, the easiest thing to do is to quit and throw your hands up and say, oh man, this is too much. But you know what? That's not what leaders do. Lewis and Clark, you got to give them credit. They came together, the core of discovery, that group of men, they brought them together, and instead of quitting and going back and telling Jefferson, hey, we ran out of water, no, they came together and made changes necessary to continue moving forward. What they did was they focused on the mission. What were we sent here to do? And I want to challenge y'all, you got into this world of service for a reason. And what's your mission? The easiest thing to do is to lose sight of it, but if you keep sight of the mission, and the mission ultimately is people. Do you know that in the last 2 years, 8 out of 10 Americans, but Georgians specifically, have experienced moderate to severe depression? Listen, in the Generation Z, that 12 to 27, 72% of them say that they're lonely. 10 years ago, that same age group, 27% said they're lonely. But now 72% say that they're lonely. And guys, we were hardwired to connect. And apart from carrying good, healthy connections, bad things happen to people. Talking with a principal up in Forsyth County. They started in 2019, put some people in schools to deal with suicide ideation and emotional wellness and stuff, and they had 290, among 50,000 students, 290 conversations. This year, they've already had 5,000 conversations of students that are struggling. See, we're off the map, guys. We're off the map. Now, the easy thing to do is to take our canoes and go home. But I don't think that's what God wants us to do. I think God wants us to do something different. Matter of fact, the days ahead, you know there's no experts. There are no experts now. I tell the pastors I work with all the time, guys, they didn't prepare us for this year in seminary. They didn't prepare us for a pandemic. Matter of fact, all the training that I had and all that kind of education, I'm telling you, it's obsolete all of a sudden. The question is, what are we going to do? Are we going to take our stuff and go home? Or are we going to do like Lewis and Clark and figure it out? And go from being river rats to mountain men who go figure out how to get the job done. Lewis and Clark did it. The one thing it took was it took them working together. That team that they had to work together. Because I want to make a proposal for you. The days ahead are not going to be like the days behind. And the days of somehow we've got to come together and work together in a way, because Republicans and Democrats aren't going to, well, that was last year. The days ahead, don't ask me, I'm not the expert. There's not one. There's not conferences you can go to. Tell our pastors, we can't preach our way out of this. Because I'm telling you, the future's bright if we come together and do it's going to take all of us together doing things that are unusual. There's a biblical example of Jehoshaphat. He woke up one morning, he was king of Israel, and they came to him and says, we're surrounded by this vast army. There's 3 different groups of people that had come together to fight against him. And he'd never been there before, but he called all the people together. They got together, and he called a prayer meeting, And in desperation, his prayer is classic. At the end of it, it says, God, we don't know what to do, but our eyes are on you. Because I'm telling you, part of me sometimes thinks, I wish I'd have been born 10 years earlier. That way I could have retired right about now. But Acts 17:26 says there's an ordained time and a place that a man's to live. And if God's got you alive today in the state of Georgia serving, man up. Quit being a river rat and go be a mountain man or a mountain woman. Working together, we can figure this thing out to make Georgia the best state in the union, but it's not going to happen by us staying where we are, because the days ahead aren't like the days behind. That causes some people to be scared. Not me. I think the future's bright if we work together. Lord, I want to pray for my brothers and sisters. Thank you that they're here to serve. And I want to pray over them and just ask you to bless them with wisdom. And Lord, may they understand the future is not like the past. Lord, give us the heart to serve. Lord, Friday I'll be serving them middle schoolers in Bartow County. What's an old guy like me doing in middle school? But that's where kids are suffering emotionally. Lord, the receptivity there of having them, have an old guy just love on them and work with them. Lord, help us to do what's best for the whole. Help us to figure it out. We don't know. We acknowledge today, we don't know, but God, our eyes are going to be on you. So Lord, I thank you for this group, and I pray blessings upon them. And I pray, Lord, that the days ahead give us wisdom. I pray this in Christ's name. Amen. Senator Thompson, thank you for giving me the opportunity. Guys, it's an honor to be here. God bless you.
All right, the Senate will come back to order. Are there any unanimous consents? The chair sees none. Does any senator wish to rise on a point of personal privilege? The chair recognizes the senator from the 32nd for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to take this opportunity to recognize one of our own senators who has decided not to return to the chamber after this term. The senator from the 3rd was born and raised in Brunswick, Georgia, where she met and married her husband of 60 years, Arlie. They have one child, Leslie, who's with us in the chamber today, 2 grandchildren, Ryan and Nora, and 2 great-grandchildren, Rain and Kylie. The senator from St. Mary's was the national president of the Navy League of the United States from 2003 to 2005. This is the only civilian organization dedicated to supporting the sea services, the U.S. Navy, Marine Corps, Coast Guard, and Merchant Marine. As national president, she was responsible for leading the Navy League's 70,000 members who are dedicated to educating American citizens and elected officials about the importance of sea power. This Georgia native is the first and only woman to hold this position since the League was founded in 1902. She served as National Vice President for Legislative Affairs and aggressively sought support on Capitol Hill and made educating congressional members about the sea services her top priority. She serves as president of the Camden Partnership. The senator from the 3rd has received numerous awards, including the Secretary of the Navy's Distinguished Superior and Meritorious Public Service Medals, the United States Coast Guard's Distinguished and Meritorious Public Service Medals, the 2004 U.S. Armed Forces Spirit of Hope Award, and many others. In 2019, she was awarded the Naval Submarine League's Distinguished Civilian Award. When asked to run for Senate, she declined, but then realized she had more to give to her community. Once her husband said, "Do it," that is all that it took. She had planned to run for several more terms, but due to her husband's recent diagnosis, she declined to run again to spend quality time with her husband. We did a resolution earlier, and Senator from the 3rd, if you wouldn't mind coming up here, I'd be delighted to present you with this resolution. Thank you, Senator. We're going to miss you in the Senate chamber. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the well.
We'll go hang out this time next year down at the coast. How's that sound? We're both going to be retired. Chair recognizes the senator from the 35th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have the honor of presenting our Doctor of the Day. So Dr. Darima Hughes, MD, are you upstairs in the gallery? Please stand while I introduce you. She is originally from the Bronx. Dr. Hughes earned her undergraduate degree from Harvard University and her medical degree from Emory University before completing residence at Boston Medical Center, where she was chief resident in the Department of Emergency Medicine. She now leads the emergency medicine team at the Kaiser Permanente Southwood Comprehensive Medical Center, which is located in Jonesboro, Georgia. Beyond her duties as a physician, she's a loving wife and the mother of 4 children, 2 boys and 2 girls, and you still look like a teenager. We are members of the historic Ebenezer Baptist Church, the church of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. So welcome today. Thank you for your service, and thank you for being here to help us be healthier today. Thank you. Let's give her a hand.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 14th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise today, first of all, to just thank our pastor of the day, David Franklin. We only got just a small dose of what David normally delivers to Northwest Georgia, and many of you have come up and been so kind to him. But I really rise for another reason. Many of you have the opportunity, as I've served the last 9 years, to watch my children grow up, Faith and Max. And Faith's about to graduate from Sanford. As many of you know, she started singing when she was young, started playing the piano when she was 4. Of course, Max is over at Riverside, about to receive the presidential award this Friday. But the biggest and the greatest thing we can have as men is to be able to look at what we've been able to do with our children. And I've poured into my kids hoping that their life was going to be just a little bit easier, they would make a little better decisions, and life to be a little bit brighter for them. And I know it comes as no surprise that our beautiful daughter, at some point, some man would grab her attention and then come to me and ask for her hand in marriage. In the back of the room, I am proud to say, Parker Breedlove, who I love dearly, has asked for her hand in marriage. And Parker, you're not only going to make a great son-in-law, you're going to make a hell of a great husband. So I appreciate you.
Chair recognizes the distinguished rules chairman for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. I've had a lot of people ask me about my situation yesterday, and I'll tell you what had happened. I live at the foot of Lookout Mountain, and a cabin had an LP tank that blevied, or blew up, as the senator from the 24th would say, and debris spilled over into the mountain, burning debris, and it caught the mountain on fire. And I'd like to thank all of you for inquiring today, or those who have, and thank you so much for your love. And I also like to thank Director Lowermore from the Forestry Service, and also Seth Pierce, a crew leader, assistant, and his crew. They had 2 helicopters dropping water and 2 airplanes dropping water, and a crew of about 16 people making sure that residents in that area and other wildlife were protected as much as possible. The fire ended up being kind of burning the undergrowth of the forest, which is a good thing. However, they're expecting 40 to 45 mile an hour winds today, which is a bad thing for fire. It spreads rapidly. But the fire got within 15 yards of my house, and the rock back behind my house kept it from going further. And it is north past my house now. They're expecting a controlled burn to happen there, and they're trying to get it out before the winds hit, and then after the winds, the rains will hit, which is a good thing. But again, brothers and sisters, thank you for your love and your support, and I'll leave the well before I start crying again. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the well.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 34th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Senate. I rise today as a proud mother of a Delta Sigma Theta. That's a sorority that's been in existence for its 109 years of service and recognizing March 2nd of 2022 as Delta Day at the state capitol. And Delta Sigma Theta is a public service organization founded on January 13th, 1913 by 22 visionary collegiate women at Howard University in Washington, D.C. Whereas Delta Sigma Theta sorority is a sisterhood of colleges, educated women dedicated to academic excellence and committed to community service. And whereas Delta Days at the Capitol has instituted Georgiana Sinkfield, a Servant Leadership Award in recognition of her service as the longest serving female in the history of the Georgia General Assembly. And by the way, I served my one term on the House side, and Georgiana Sinkfield actually mentored me and showed me how to get in and out of the well when I did my first presentation as a recipient of the bill that I passed, allowing students to get registered to vote at their high school back then. And whereas the history of Georgia, Porter E. Costin, the Trailblazer Award, was named the first African-American female commissioner elected in my district in Fayette County, Georgia, and the Social Action Collegiate Change Agent Award, which is awarded to students actively involved in student government association, leadership, and partnership organization. Therefore, I see my light has come on, I'm skipping now. We be it resolved that the members of this body commends the efforts of Delta Sigma Theta sorority for its 109 years of continued commitment to public service and its work in making a state of Georgia a better place which to live, and to recognize March 2nd as Delta Sigma Theta Day. Will you give the Deltas a hand, please? Thank you, Mr. President. I'll yield the will.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 29th for a point of personal privilege.
I promise I try to be the good guy. But I want to remind my colleagues in this chamber that every piece of paper, every piece of legislation, every resolution, everything that comes before us is extremely serious, and we should vet it, and we should look at it, and we should understand it. Yesterday, individuals were asked to vote on a resolution to recognize an individual who slipped ecstasy into someone's drink, an individual who, after being charged, stated that unconsciousness is sometimes interpreted as consent, an individual who lost several jobs because of that, an individual who pled guilty and was sentenced to 3 years probation, and the only reason he got 3 years probation is because the victim that was drugged could not absolutely testify to what happened to her when she woke up unclothed. So understand, when we're in here, no matter how good it feels, remember, the men, the women, and the families that put us into these seats expect a standard. And while we're all human and we fail, including the individual I'm referencing, we must always attempt to operate at the highest standard. And that highest standard, especially as we occupy the position of a state senator in the great state of Georgia. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the well.
You have a consent calendar of privileged resolutions before you. Does any senator wish to remove a resolution from the consent calendar? Is there objection to adoption of the resolutions on the consent calendar? The chair hears none, and the resolutions on the consent calendar are adopted. Chair recognizes the majority leader for a motion.
Mr. President, I ask for unanimous consent. The Senate rules be suspended to allow HB 1437 to be withdrawn from the rules calendar and committed to the general calendar.
Mr. Secretary, can you please read the caption?
House Bill 1437, a bill by Representatives Blackman of the 146 and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 7 of Title 48 of the OCGA relating to income taxes so as to revise the rates of taxation on income, to provide for related matters and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
The majority leader has asked unanimous consent that the rules be suspended to allow House Bill 1437 to be withdrawn from today's rules calendar and committed to the general calendar. Is there objection? The chair hears none, and it is committed. Are there any additional motions to withdraw and commit? You have a consent calendar of local bills before you. Mr. Secretary, are there any objections filed to any bills on the local consent calendar?
Mr. President, no objections filed.
Is there objection to agreeing with the report of the Committee on State and Local Government, which is favorable to the passage of the bills on the local calendar? The chair hears none, and the report of the committee is agreed to. The question now is on the passage of the bills on the local calendar. All those in favor vote yea, opposed nay. The Secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bills on the local calendar, the yeas are 51, the nays are 2, and the bills having received the requisite constitutional majority are therefore passed. Ms. Secretary, will you please read a privileged resolution, please?
Senate Resolution 823, a resolution by Senators Miller of the 49th and others, a resolution approving a cost of living adjustment and supplement for the Secretary of the Senate and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the pro tem to speak to the privileged resolution.
Thank you, Mr. President. As the members of this body well know, the Secretary of the Senate's pay scale is set by the body itself. This resolution simply gives the same $5,000 increase as other state
Senator,
employees.
please stand by. If each member in the chamber would take your seats, cease all audible conversations, or exit the chamber. The pro tem is in the well. Proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. As I was saying, this gives the Secretary of the Senate the same $5,000 increase other state employees receive and gives him parity with his counterpart in the House of Representatives. If there are no questions, I will yield the well.
You don't appear to have any questions.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask for your favorable consideration.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the privilege resolution? The chair sees none. Is there objection to adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none, and the resolution is adopted. Thank you for your service. The chair recognizes the pro tem.
Is it too late to object to my own resolution?
You can log it in the journal. Want to take a second to recognize some good friends that are with us from Eastside Christian School in Marietta. Thank you for joining us here today. There you are, Justin. Thanks for coming down here. Both sides, if y'all would stand up, we want to recognize you for coming down here. Thank you. Chair recognizes the majority leader for a motion.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that the following bills be engrossed. They be HB 424, HB 934, HB 997, HB 1034, HB 1041.
Ms. Secretary, can you please read those captions?
House Bill 934, a bill by Representatives Leverett with the 33rd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 1 of Article 5A of Chapter 8 of Title 48 of the OCGA relating to the Special District Mass Transportation Sales and Use Tax, so as to provide for the maximum amount and time frame for the collection of such tax when an intergovernmental agreement has been entered into between a county and municipality and for the purposes. House Bill 997, a bill by Representatives Watson of the 172nd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 1 of Article 2 of Chapter 5 of Title 48 of the OCGA relating to property tax exemption so as to provide for a statewide exemption from all ad valorem taxes for timber equipment and for other purposes. House Bill 1041, a bill by Representatives Perkle of the 155th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 48-7-29.20 of the OCGA relating to tax credits for contributions to rural hospital organizations and for other purposes. House Bill 1034, a bill by Representatives Whitterer of the 119th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 48-8-3 of the OCGA relating to exemptions from sales and use taxes, so as to revise the exemption for sales of admissions to non-recurring major sporting events and for other purposes. House Bill 424, a bill by Representatives Williamson of the 115th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 7 of Title 48 of the OCGA relating to income taxes and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
The majority leader has asked for unanimous consent that House Bill 424, House Bill 934, House Bill 997, House Bill 1034, and House Bill 1041 be engrossed. Is there objection? There is objection. Would the majority leader like to speak? He waives. Would the minority leader like to speak to her objection? She waives. All those in favor of engrossing those bills, vote yea. Opposed, nay. The Secretary will unlock the machine. On the motion, the yeas are 34 and the nays are 21, and House Bill 424, 934, 997, 1034, and 1041 are engrossed. All right, we're now going to move on to the rules calendar. We got here pretty quick. Mr. Secretary, can you please read the caption of House Bill 1183?
House Bill 1183, a bill by Representatives Gunter of the 8th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 6 of Title 17 of the OCGA relating to bonds and recognises so as to provide for an increase in the time allotted to try a criminal case in judicial emergencies, to clarify bond forfeiture conditions, and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Judiciary recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Strickland of the 17th District Chairman. By substitute. Mr. President, the Senate Rules Committee offers the following substitute to House Bill 1183, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 6 of Title 17 of the OCGA relating to bonds and recognises so as to clarify bond forfeiture conditions, to provide for conditions applicable to professional bonding companies that have operated continuously for 18 months or longer in a particular county, and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 53rd. The chair recognizes the Rules Chairman in the back of the chamber to speak to the measure. Chair recognizes the senator from the 50th to speak to the measure. You put your own number on here.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today I rise to bring House Bill 1183. This bill does two things. Number one, right now in the state of Georgia, a professional bonds company is required to have money in escrow to help account for bonds that they've posted. Right now that escrow account is capped at 10%. We're going to lower that to 5%. And the reason behind this is because of the backlog of cases with COVID and the exposure and the amount of money that the bonds companies have put in. Number two, the second thing this does is it clarifies the language to align with legislative intent with regards to when you return a principal that did not appear in court. Right now, the way the bill is written is if you brought someone back, you would be charged the full judgment amount plus 5%, which is not the intent. It actually disincentivizes someone from trying to return a principal. So what it does is if you do return the principal, you only have to pay 5% and not 105%. And if there are any questions, I'm happy to yield.
You have a question. Chair recognizes the senator from the 17th to your left.
Does the senator yield?
I do.
Senator, I know it's kind of late in session. This is a kind of time in session where communication is key. Would you agree?
I would agree with that 100%.
And do you further yield?
I do.
Did you talk to the Rules Chairman before you took this bill from him?
We had very long discussions about it, yes.
Would you call that pillow talk since y'all are roommates?
I yield the well, Mr. President.
Senator has yielded the well. The back of your neck's a little red right now. Any other senator wish to speak for or against House Bill 1183? The chair sees none. The question is on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to adoption of the committee sub? The chair hears none, and the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agree in the report of the committee, which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. Question on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. Secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 52, the nays are 1. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Ms. Secretary, can you please read the caption to House Bill 1276?
House Bill 1276, a bill by Representatives Hawkins of the 27th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 2 of Title 31 of the OCGA relating to the Department of Community Health so as to require that statistical reports containing data relating to state health plans be posted on the department website and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Insurance and Labor recommend that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Burke of the 11th District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Insurance and Labor offered the following substitute to House Bill 1276, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 2 of Title 31 of the OCGA relating to the Department of Community Health so as to require that statistical reports containing data relating to state health plans be posted on the department website and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the distinguished senator from the 20th to present House Bill 1276.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, House Bill 1276 is about transparency. Transparency's maybe the word of the year, word of the decade even. It has to do with the Department of Community Health and the reports the legislature wants to receive from them regarding our state health benefit plans and the contracts with the insurers. The author of the bill worked with the Georgia Association of Healthcare Quality to craft the bill to make sure that it's clear what DCH can provide to the legislature so that we can make improvements to our program going forward. Be happy to answer any questions if there are any, Mr. President.
You don't appear to have any questions.
I'd ask for your favorable consideration, and I yield the well. Thank you.
Any other senator wish to speak for or against House Bill 1276? The chair sees none. The questions on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to adoption of the committee substitute? Chair hears none, and the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agree on the report of the committee, which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 54, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Ms. Secretary, can you please read the caption of House Bill 1452?
House Bill 1452, a bill by Representatives Gaines of the 117th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 13A of Title 19 of the OCGA relating to dating violence protective orders so as to revise a definition. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Judiciary recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Strickland of the 17th District Chairman. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 18th to present the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, colleagues. I bring to you this House bill, which is important because it assists victims of domestic violence. Previously, the law required that individuals had to be either married or have a child together to file for a temporary protective order in the event that you had an abusive relationship. We crafted legislation that ensured we protected victims of dating violence recently, while ensuring that we crafted the language in a way that doesn't allow misuse of the statute. Since passing that bill recently, though, we've heard of the need to tweak the amount of time eligibility for the victim to file their temporary protective order. Previously, after working with the various interested parties, the General Assembly landed on a time frame of allowing 6 months, that is, required a 6-month window for a relationship with someone that was not your spouse or someone that was not with whom you had a child. But recently, since we passed that law, we've seen some examples of where judges have had to deny what would have otherwise been an appropriate temporary protective order because it was slightly beyond that 6-month period. The one thing this law does, or this proposed bill, is simply take the window from a 6-month look back on a dating relationship to a 12-month look back, which ought to enhance the opportunity for folks that are suffering from domestic violence because of being in a former dating relationship to be able to go to the court and get some help. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
You have no questions.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate your consideration and vote for this bill. I will yield the well.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against House Bill 1452? The chair sees none. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill? All those in favor vote yea. Opposed nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 53, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Ms. Secretary, can you please read the caption of House Bill 624?
House Bill 624, a bill by Representatives Taylor of the 173rd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 15-6-2 of the OCGA relating to the number of judges of superior courts, so as to provide for an additional judge of the Superior Court of the South Georgia Judicial Circuit and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Judiciary recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Strickland of the 17th District Chairman. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 18th. Stay hot.
Thank you again, Mr. President. I'm bringing to you House Bill 624. This discusses and gives us an opportunity to add a judgeship to the South Georgia Judicial Circuit down in the neck of the wood for our dear friend, the senator from the 11th. This is rural South Georgia, includes Baker, Calhoun, Decatur, Grady, and Mitchell counties. This circuit currently has 2 judges. The last time a new Superior Court judgeship was added to this circuit, notwithstanding the growth of our state, was 1978, folks. 1978. In other words, our beloved UGA football team has had 2 national championships since this circuit last got another judge. 44 years ago, right, Senator from the 11th? They need some help, and that's what we can do today. Also, notwithstanding our love for the senator from the 11th and the folks in that area, importantly, the objective criteria by which judicial circuits are ranked for additional need of a judge ranks this circuit as number 1. That is the one in greatest need of adding an additional judge. By doing this, this would also lower the workload that's currently assessed that each judge is basically doing the work of 1.8 judges. So that puts some context. This judgeship is very needed and should be a priority, and I would ask for your favorable consideration for this measure. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
You don't appear to have any questions.
Thank you. I ask for your favorable consideration. I yield the well.
Any other senator wish to speak for or against House Bill 624? The chair sees none. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none and the main question is ordered. Question on the passage of the bill. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 55, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Mr. Secretary, can you please read the caption of House Bill 424?
House Bill 424, a bill by Representatives Williamson of the 115th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 7 of Title 48 of the OCGA relating to income taxes so as to change certain definitions regarding such taxes and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Finance recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Huffstetler of the 52nd District Chairman. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 46th to speak to House Bill 424.
Thank you, Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate. House Bill 424 is nothing other than Senate Bill 370, the Lieutenant Governor's Fostering Success Act, tax credit for these aging out foster children organizations that help them transition into adulthood. The only change was a couple of requests from me from the Department of Revenue that were put in committee, and the House bill number rather than a Senate bill number. I think this is a good example of selfless leadership by our Lieutenant Governor, who lives by that axiom that it's amazing what you can get accomplished when you don't care who gets the credit. We passed it unanimously last time. I urge you please to do the same. I'll yield the well or take any questions.
You don't appear to have any questions.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against House Bill 424? Chair sees none. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none and the main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 52, the nays are 0, and this bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Great work. For what purpose does the senator from the 18th rise?
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask for unanimous consent that the Senate Rule 4-2.9 be suspended to allow for immediate consideration of House Bill 752.
Ms. Secretary, can you please read the caption?
House Bill 752, a bill by Representatives Cooper of the 43rd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 37 of the OCGA relating to mental health so as to provide for a psychiatric advance directive and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
The senator from the 18th has asked for unanimous consent for the rules to be suspended for immediate consideration of House Bill 752. Is there objection? The chair hears none, and now the chair recognizes the senator from the 18th to present House Bill 752. Ms. Secretary, can you please read the bill? Read the caption.
House Bill 752, a bill by Representatives Cooper of the 43rd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 37 of the OCGA relating to mental health so as to provide for a psychiatric advance directive, to provide for a competent adult to express his or her mental health care treatment preferences and desires directly through instructions written in advance and indirectly through appointing an agent to make mental health care decisions on behalf of that person and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Judiciary recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Strickland of the 17th District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Judiciary offers the following substitute to House Bill 752, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 37 of the OCGA relating to mental health so as to provide for a psychiatric advance directive, to provide for a competent adult to express his or her mental health care treatment preferences and desires directly through instructions written in advance and indirectly through appointing an agent to make mental health care decisions on behalf of that person and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Chair now recognizes the senator from the 18th to present House Bill 752.
Thank you, Mr. President. My apologies for y'all having to hear from me 3 times before lunch, but this is an important measure, House Bill 752, the Georgia Psychiatric Advance Directive Act. You know, this has been in many ways the year of our body and this General Assembly addressing mental health issues in Georgia. And I would tell you this is completely consistent with what we've done so far and the great work that this body has done on 1013 and the House's initiative in that regard. But this is titled the Psychiatric Advance Directive Act to really fill a gap that currently exists in Georgia agency law. We already have, as many of you probably know, a Georgia Advance Directive for health care, and it covers traditional medical decisions, but it excludes certain authority related to health care, to mental health care. All Georgians are able to appoint an agent using the General Advance Directive for health care. And I would tell you as a small public service announcement, if you or your family members don't have such a document, I would strongly encourage you to do that as you do your planning for your family and for yourself in later years where such documents are needed. At the end of this, I hope you'll understand why if this bill passes, why this other document is also available in the event that you have that need in your family. But the Advance Directive for health care that we currently have on the books is a small subset of population suffering from mental illness that's currently unable to name an agent who can step up in the event of an acute mental illness episode. HB 572 seeks to codify a psychiatric advance directive, and it fills the gap in really 2 significant ways. First, the proposed template affords those with a mental health diagnosis an advance opportunity to decline or consent to certain aspects to their mental health care. The Psychiatric Advance Directive is intended to maximize the declarant, that is the person signing the document, their ability to self-direct their care in the psychiatric field. The second very important thing that this does, the proposed template affords those with mental health diagnosis an opportunity to appoint an agent, and that's what we don't have currently in our law, folks, but to appoint an agent who can assist with mental health care decisions which are not otherwise currently permitted under our traditional advance directive for health care, that many of you probably have signed and may be in the file with your family documents like your will. This is intended to assure that if the declarant cannot make their own mental health care decisions, then someone he or she trusts to implement their wishes will be able to step in and give needed direction. The proposed Psychiatric Advance Directive has been designed to come alongside the long-standing Advance Directive that currently is here in a seamless way for those with mental health diagnoses to direct their future health care once they're in an acute mental health crisis. It's worthy to note that there's been near universal support for HB 752 from the medical community and countless mental health groups, including the Georgia Medical Association, the Georgia Psychiatric Physicians Association, the Georgia Psychological Association, the National Alliance of Mental Health Illness. The lawyers have looked at this and spent a lot of time, and I want to commend all the counsel that worked on this that are associated with the divisions of the State Bar of Georgia that have put a lot of time into what this document needed to look like to successfully provide folks an opportunity, and the Georgia Association of Community Service Boards. There are lots of other organizations that have stepped forward and said they agree with this, but I won't take your time. Patients who have stated their treatment preferences in this type document will be more likely to receive the care that's consistent with their wishes, and also in an emergency, the process of diagnosis and treating patients in a mental health crisis will be more efficient. And finally, the creation of this document will help minimize the stigma that often burdens those with mental health diagnoses by sending the message that Georgia wants to do all it can in its power to assure its citizens with mental health diagnoses will receive excellent medical care. I appreciate you listening to this. Thank you for your consideration. I'm happy to answer any questions or yield the well.
You have a couple of questions. The chair would like to recognize the Rules Chairman to your left.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator, excuse me. I got a tickle in my throat. I apologize. Senator Yield.
I don't know, Senator. I need to consider that. Okay, yes, sir. I'll yield the well to you.
Isn't
my
it
dear
true,
friend.
Isn't it true that this
Probably not.
senator is proud of this bill and your work and others' work on mental health this year?
Yes, Senator, it is, and thank you for those.
Isn't it also true that we have been so far behind in this issue in America for so long? So now I appreciate us stepping up. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rules Chair, I appreciate those comments. Thank you.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 35th with a question.
Will the senator yield?
Yes, ma'am.
Senator, I understand what the bill is doing, and it is a need, but I have a question about, isn't it true that if a person, for example, like my stepsister had a crisis for the first time in her life years ago at Georgia State. She had been the valedictorian of her high school in Atlanta and came over to Georgia State, and this was her first week. She was in the library, and I don't know what happened, but she had some kind of crisis, left her computer, her purse, everything, and they found her way down at Buckhead running, but nobody got in touch because they didn't know who she was. So does this bill allow for someone to find out who that person is? Because they used her for a guinea pig for a whole week, giving her electric shock treatments and everything, and she never came back to herself. And she was a vibrant, young, brilliant, young, beautiful woman. And that's been over 12 years ago. So does it make sure, since she was still staying with my mom and dad, would they not have gotten in touch before they decide to give treatment?
Well, Senator, thank you for the question. I'm certainly sorry for that experience that you and your family endured. The real purpose of this is for those that have known mental health issues to allow for them to set forth in the document really two things. If they're going to be treated during a mental health crisis, that they provide certain direction as to what that treatment that they sort of pre-authorize, if you will, that can be administered to them. And secondly, it allows them to appoint an agent that in the event that they're in a mental health crisis and are not able to make decisions for themselves, that they're able to, the document allows and says the law provides that someone pre-appointed as an agent to make those medical and, in this case, mental health care decisions for them, that they have the authority to do that. So that's really what the focus of the bill is. I'm not sure it's an identification type issue, maybe like was unfortunately with your family. But I would say this: if this had existed at the time, and if this had been executed by your family member, or for that matter, by any of ours, or going forward, if this bill goes into law, and that the document is availed by our family members and Georgians, it certainly changes the landscape significantly for the better for that person who at that point is in a crisis and then is a patient under care.
Will the gentleman further yield?
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to make sure that do we need an amendment to say, please find the identity of the person before you, because her ID was still in the library at Georgia State. So isn't it true that someone needs to know who they're treating, because she had never had anything stronger than a Coca-Cola. They put all that medicine in her body, and she's not ever gotten any better since then.
Senator, I appreciate the concern, and certainly that unfortunate, unique circumstance that y'all dealt with. I would ask that we not amend this bill, really for two reasons. One, it is the product of literally years of work by medical professionals, psychiatric professionals, legal professionals from the state bar to come together and coalesce around this as really hopefully the best model we can come up with going forward. And number two, I really think maybe the challenge of your fact pattern that you were dealing with, it is not something that this document is really intended to address. I think what I'm hearing from you that I'm very sympathetic with is it's an identification issue, and that's really not what this is about. But I appreciate you sharing your concerns.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 32nd with a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Does Senator yield?
I sure do, for my friend from the 32nd.
Senator, isn't it true that those of us in the trenches of healthcare who deal with patients with mental illness on a regular basis, at least I did in my past life, frequently would have had great benefit from our patients in a crisis situation having already dealt with what would happen if they got into a crisis situation, that this will be very helpful to the medical community?
Senator, I would think so, but you certainly have the expertise and the background and practice area to speak with great authority on that, and I appreciate you sharing that.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 29th to your right for a question.
Thank you. Does Senator yield?
Certainly do.
Senator, I want to start out by saying I see the absolute importance of this legislation, and it's a good piece of legislation. Just have a question. Could you look on line 193? I just need some clarification on that line. It states that the advanced directive shall be effective only if it is signed by the declarant and witnessed by two competent adults, but the witnesses shall not be required to be together or present when such declarant signs the directive. The witnesses shall attest that the declarant is known to them, appears to be of sound mind, not under duress, fraud, or due influence. I'm just curious, not being present, are we talking about Zoom, or are we talking about some other technology that's allowing that?
No, Senator, thanks for the question. My understanding is the intent is that the witnesses don't have to be present together at the time, and so you can have the signature witnessed by two different people, is my understanding. And if after signed, the person signs it, then declares and avers in front of the other witness that this is their signature. I think that's the issue, and that I think is to accommodate in the event that whatever the circumstances are, there aren't two witnesses available at a particular moment.
Senator, further yield?
Yes, sir.
Just for clarification, that means that they sign it in front of one witness, and then later the other witness will witness it also.
That's my understanding.
So two witnesses, both there, just not together.
That's my understanding, yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
And that's fairly consistent with execution of real estate documents and things like that.
You don't appear to have any more questions.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you to this body. This is important as we continue to do our work for Georgians on mental health. 2022 will be a year that we can be very proud of on what we've done for that, I hope, and this will be a part of that, and thank you for your consideration. I ask you vote yes, and I yield the well.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against House Bill 752? The chair sees none. The question's on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to adoption of the committee substitute? The chair hears none, and the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 55, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Ms. Secretary, can you please read the caption to House Bill 1034?
House Bill 1034, a bill by Representatives Widower of the 119th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 48-8-3 of the OCGA relating to exemptions from sales and use taxes, so as to revise the exemption for sales of admissions to non-recurring major sporting events, to amend the definition of major sporting event to include any match of a FIFA World Cup, and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Finance recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Huffstetler of the 52nd District Chairman. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the good senator from Roswell to present House Bill 1034.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate the very nice compliment. House Bill 1034 is something we've done many times in the past, which is to provide a sales tax exemption for major sporting events. Most of us are familiar when the Final Four has come to town, the Super Bowl, or other large events. In order to be in the running for those events, we have to have an exemption on the sales tax, or they simply will not come. As you all know, I have been a champion to make sure we have a return on investment of all of our tax credits and exemptions. In fact, this body, our Senate, many times, and we finally got passed and signed to law Senate Bill 6 last year, is to measure those. This is one of those ones that gets measured, because we know the economic result of getting one of these. In fact, when we had the Final Four the last time, the estimates were over $100 million of economic impact to the state of Georgia, where the amount of sales tax was a tiny, tiny fraction of that. This will allow us for the football playoffs coming in both 2025 as well as 2032, the FIFA World Cup Soccer in 2026, the Super Bowl in 28, the Final Four in 29, and the Rugby World Cup in 2031. Some of these are anticipated because of the number of matches and timetable to be $200 to $400 million of return. So again, being good stewards of the taxpayers' money, to use a little bit of an exemption for sales tax to get back a huge return is smart business and a good responsible use of taxpayer funds. Mr. President, if there are no questions, I would yield the well.
You have a couple of questions. Chair recognizes the senator from the 26th with a question to your right. Chair recognizes the senator from the 26th with a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. With the Senate of the year.
I yield.
Do you reckon we can unengross this bill so I can get included in it?
Well, Senator, it's a very strong motion, but I think it may be out of order.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 36th with a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Does the senator yield?
I yield.
Senator, you made comments as you spoke in support of this bill you brought, that studying the impact is a wise thing and something that the Finance Committee, of which you are the vice chair, isn't it true, has endorsed doing and has put in place a process for studying the impact of bills like this and how it impacts our revenue. Isn't that the case?
That is correct, Senator. And last year, Governor Kemp signed in Senate Bill 6, which allows us to do 10 of those studies each and every year. In this case, these were actually measured on a rotating basis as each event has happened in the past. We were able to measure the economic impact of what that was afterwards. So we actually have more examples of measuring this particular credit than probably any other one we've ever had.
Thank you for that response. And isn't it true that in an abundance of caution, it would be very wise for this Senate to apply that same diligence to analyzing the impact that our tax credits for the film industry have brought to our great state with its 75,000 employees and activity going on all over Georgia as a result of those credits that have placed Georgia as the #3 state in the country for the film industry. Isn't it true it's wise to study that as well before we take any precipitous steps to change that legislation?
Senator, I appreciate your line of questioning for another bill, but I will just make a blanket statement that I think it is very important that any and all tax credits or expenditures that are made through the General Assembly should be thoroughly measured with a return on investment, because we work for the people of Georgia, not for a special interest, and we should make sure they're getting a good return on that investment.
And for
Thank you.
a final question is, isn't it true that I completely agree with you that we need to scrutinize these tax credits for their effectiveness and whether they're serving the best interests of our state? Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 46th with a question.
The senator yield.
I was wondering what took you so long.
Senator, you may anticipate my question then. How does this tax benefit help us if Major League Baseball and other liberal progressive sports leagues aren't going to bring their events here anyway and are going to cancel them even when they give them to us because they disagree with our conservative voting records?
Well, Senator, let me just make it abundantly clear, because I am a huge Braves fan. I know they do well. Major League Baseball struck out with integrity last year. And it was their fault, but I am not going to penalize our local business owners and those who could really be beneficial for all the other economic goodness that will come from these other sporting events. And I think if you look at the information and notes on this, there is not anticipated for another all-star game here during this timeline.
Follow-up question.
Yes, sir.
You have been insistent on a 5-year sunset on bills, apparently other than the ones you present here. Is there a reason why you don't want your 5-year sunset in accordance with Senate finance procedures?
Senator, this would be the only bill that I have brought in front of you that didn't have a 5-year or less sunset. However, because these different events go out to 2032, there is a zero-sum gain if we do not get them. So everything that comes to that is a prospective amount of taxes that would come in. So in this case, it's not a true tax credit or expenditure in the sense that we would have normal ones where we'd lay out a certain amount that would be taken from the state treasury without a return on investment. In this case, there is no event and there is no economic goodness that comes out of it unless it happens. And that's why.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You have no more questions.
Thank you. I'd ask for your favorable consideration.
Does any of the senator wish to speak for or against House Bill 1034? The chair sees none. Is there objection to agree on the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none and the main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill? All those in favor vote yea. Opposed nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 48, the nays are 6. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Mr. Secretary, will you please read the caption on House Bill 1041?
House Bill 1041, a bill by Representatives Perkle of the 155th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 48-7-29.20 of the OCGA relating to tax credits for contributions to rural hospital organizations, so as to increase the aggregate limit for tax credits for contributions to rural hospital organizations and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Finance recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Huffstetler, the 52nd District Chairman. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the good senator from the 4th to present House Bill 1041.
Mr. President, it gives me great pleasure today to talk about a bill that I got a tremendous amount of passion for because it has a big impact on my district, Senate District 4. But House Bill 1041 increases and extends the rural hospital tax credit from the current $60 million to $75 million, and this will be effective January 1, 2023. When I think of rural hospitals, I think of something that makes a community viable. Without a rural hospital, a community is not viable, and without being viable, a community dies. I think of it as a four-legged stool for a community to be successful. You got to have a great transportation system. You got to have a great health care system. You got to have a great education system. And you got to have broadband. And one of those four legs of that stool is a health care system. And without rural hospitals, these communities do not live. In the last 10 years in Georgia, we've lost 8 rural hospitals for lack of financial ability to survive. Let me tell you how this affects our community, our district, Senate District 4. We got 4 rural hospitals that qualify for this tax credit in this district. Emmanuel County Hospital has 410 employees. They're ranked number 4 in financial need in the state. Through this rural hospital tax credit, they were able to purchase a state-of-the-art mammography machine. That's a little bit hard for me to say. Candler County Hospital has 225 employees, ranked number 7 in need, and they did a renovation of the hospital and doctor's offices. Evans County Hospital, 250 employees, ranked number 17. They purchased a Lucas defibrillator machine and then an ultrasound machine, and also expanded their imaging center. Emmanuel County Hospital, 483 employees, ranked number 28. They built out their inpatient pharmacy. These tax credits are determined by the Department of Community Health and based upon the need of the community. Why do we want to increase these from 60 to 75 million? Obviously, we want to increase it because there's a financial need in these communities. District 4 hospitals that I just mentioned y'all affects 1,368 employees, and that means 1,368 families are affected by these hospitals. In 2021, the $60 million that I just mentioned to you was actually reached and sold out in August of that year. 8 months into the program, it was sold out. This year so far, we're 75% ahead on the $60 million as to where we were last year. As you can tell from my passion, I'm a big fan of this because it's a great tool for the rural communities. And I know that Senator Jack Hill and our Lieutenant Governor have been big proponents of this in the past, and I really do appreciate their passion for it. So, in fact, me personally, Joanne and I, we've already made our contribution for 2022, and just ironically, yesterday I received my confirmation back from the state of Georgia. They've accepted it. So please consider voting yes on this important bill. It's a great bill, House Bill 1041. Mr. President, I will yield for any questions.
Chair recognizes the good senator from the 11th with a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Do you yield?
I do, sir.
You mentioned that our great president of this body was a House sponsor back when he had less wrinkles and gray hair. Is that true?
Yes, sir, that's true.
Okay. Is it also true that another person here that has a lot more gray hair and wrinkles was the Senate sponsor of that bill? And if I remember right, it passed this body after midnight on day 40 when we thought there was no chance for that to happen.
the senator knows what he speaks.
Thank you. I appreciate what you're doing, Senator.
You have no more questions.
Thank you, sir.
That long night seems like yesterday. Does any of the senator wish to speak for or against House Bill 1041? The chair sees none. Is there objection to agreeing with the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 54, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. I want to thank the senator from the 4th for your good work on this. Representative Perkle, thank you for your work. And it does feel like yesterday that the senator from the 11th and I worked on this late into the evening. Maybe some would say too late, but it was an amazing night for us to work together as the House and the Senate. But I want to make sure as I exit this body that this body doesn't forget the secret sauce to the Rural Hospital Tax Credit is the flexibility that you give the communities to be a part of their solution. We don't try to sit in this building and tell them where to spend those dollars. We allow them to figure out whether it's debt service, employee retention, equipment, services. That's the secret sauce to empowering these communities to be effective with their health care delivery. So I want to thank you again for being a part of this as we move ahead. Thank you. With that, for what purpose does the senator from the 53rd rise?
If we're going to take a break,
Senator from the 53rd would like to make an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just want to remind the Rules Committee members and everybody else, we will not be meeting today. It'll be a long meeting, and we'll have that tomorrow about 12:30. However, we'll be feeding the Senate or whoever's here and staff at 12 o'clock. So we'll have a nutritious meal that won't be actually nutritious, but it'll be good. Anyway, so just want to remind the Rules Committee members we'll meet tomorrow at 12:30. Lunch will be at 12. So please come and eat with us. Have a good day. I yield the will.
I'm assuming you're not serving salads up there. No salad. All right, we're going to take a break for. We will come back at 1 o'clock. We're going to take a break for lunch. I believe that we're going to take a break, and we'll be back at 1 o'clock, and lunch will be here shortly. Thank you.